So when it comes to income, the idea is to invest sensibly and then continue saving and then delaying retirement as long as possible. So that's kind of conventional wisdom about retirement planning. But you also have to consider what your income needs will be in retirement. And joining me is Paul Mysyk in Eastlake, Ohio. So Paul, let's start out by talking about how do you typically transition a portfolio to retirement?
Well, that's an interesting question, but that conversation happens in the very beginning of our planning. We're trying to address that right up front. Most all my clients have two buckets that they're going to be deriving their income from in retirement. They have a taxable bucket and a tax-deferred bucket. The taxable bucket will be comprised of their Social Security and other investments they'll take an income from. And their tax-deferred bucket will be their 401k or their IRA that they'll take additional income for to take care of their overhead. What we talk about and what we implement in the beginning of our planning is a tax-free, no-risk bucket. That bucket's a bucket that we're going to build to handle the unknowns in retirement, those major expenses that maybe are unexpected. Even a wedding could be something that's unexpected and a major expense, but possibly medical cost, a new roof, those major costs that we have in the future that we can't foresee, the unforeseen, we're going to address with the tax-free bucket. And in doing so, when we get into retirement, we're going to pull money out of each of those buckets in a diversified way to not only deal with the risk that we have in retirement, but also the tax risk that we have in retirement and address that.
So a common drawdown strategy is the 4% rule, which was actually created back in the 90s. Now, is that still relevant today?
The 4% rule is still relevant for people that do not have a financial plan. The 4% rule says that based on the accumulated wealth that you have in retirement, if you live on 4%, you've got almost a 100% chance of running out of money. But what happens if you need 5%? What happens if you need 6% or a year that you need 10%? In those instances, what do? What we're finding is people that don't have a financial plan, that don't adhere to the 4% rule, are running into medical bills in their late 70s and early 80s, where they're having to take out a second mortgage, a third mortgage, a reverse mortgage, or worse yet, filing for bankruptcy. What I design with my clients is a plan that addresses their income needs at the beginning of their retirement. It's adjusted for inflation, and it keeps up with the cost of living. And to address those major expenses in retirement, those unexpected expenses, will pull from the tax-free, no-risk bucket for those expenses, as I mentioned, like weddings, like family vacations, medical costs, those costs around the house that we have that weren't expected, so that we control those costs and we can live on an income plan designed at the beginning that we can change as time goes on.
So how do you know when to take Social Security benefits?
Social Security is a subjective subject because everybody has a different timeline when they're going to retire, and people have different savings. What I do in the beginning of my planning is I take my clients to the website ssa.gov, Social Security Administration. And in doing so, we log in, we set up an account, and we take a look at the Social Security that my clients will receive from their early 60s to their late 70s. What we don't want to do is take Social Security at a time when we're still working, because there's severe penalties if you do so. So in looking at my clients' Social Security benefits, we try to pinpoint a point in time where they're going to retire and see if that Social Security amount that they're going to receive meets their need. And if not, we'll maybe look at a later time in Social Security to take it. Or if it exceeds what they need, maybe we'll start retirement a little bit earlier than that.
My guest has been Paul Mysyk in Eastlake, Ohio, and thanks for watching Retirement News Online.